Assalamualikum OyaRahmatullahe OyaBarakatuhu. Innal hamdanillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Amma ba'd. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is Muhammad Kamrul Hussain, Department of Business Administration, Metropolitan University, Sylhet. Welcome to my virtual classroom, MKA CLASSROOM. Now let's start today's video tutorial. Today we will start from risk preference. We will start from risk preference. Today's topic, or we can present this topic in this way: types of investor towards risk preferences. So we will see different people react to risks in different ways. Economist uses three categories to describe how investors respond to risks. First category, and the one that describes the behavior of most people most of the time, is called risk aversion. A person who is risk averse investor prefers less risky over more risky investment, holding the rate of return fixed. A risk averse investor who believes that two different investments have the same expected return will choose the investment whose returns are more certain. That is the risk averse investor. Stated another way, when choosing between two investments, a risk averse investor will not make the riskier investment unless it offer a higher expected rate of return compensate the investor for being the additional risk. So we will see risk averse investor basically take less risky investment. So here we will see risk averse investor. Risk averse investor as like X and Y two investment. So it has the return 10% return, standard deviation 0.5, and it has 0.75. So risk averse investor will prefer X as his investment because this has the less risky than Y. X is less risky than Y, about the same expected return. So that is the another matter of risk averse investor. He always time prefers less risky investment. On the other hand, if he tries to take the riskier investment, then he demands more return. He demands more return if risk is increases. If risk is increases, then he demands more return for bearing extra amount of risks. So that is the characteristics of risk averse investor. After that, we will see risk neutral. A second attitude toward risk is called risk neutral. An investor who is risk neutral choose investment based solely on their expected returns, disregarding the risks. Solely on their expected returns, disregarding the risks. When choosing between two investments, a risk neutral investor will always choose the investment with higher expected return regardless of its risks. He is the risk neutral investor. So we can see risk neutral investor. Example, X and Y, that is our two investment. X provide 10% with the standard deviation 0.50. On the other hand, Y provides 11%, it's provide 0.75. For an example, if the risk averse investor will prefer investment Y, because the risk neutral investor always time prefers its expected rate of return. So if expected return is high, then he take the investment. So whatever the risks doesn't matter. If it is high or if it is low, doesn't matter. He sees only its return. So that is the another characteristics of risk neutral investor. After that, we will see finally risk seeking investor is one who prefers investment with higher risks and may even sacrifice more expected return when choose a riskier investment. By design, the averse person who buys a lottery ticket or gambles in a casino lose money. After all, state governments and casino makes money off these endeavors, so individuals lose on average. This implies that the expected return on these activities is negative. Yet people do buy lottery tickets and visit casino and doing so that they exhibit risk-seeking investor, or they have the risk-seeking behavior. So this type of risk-seeking investor will prefer to take risks. Risk-seeking investor actually, as like we can give an example, X and Y. X 10% return, it has the 5% return, standard deviation 0.50, whereas the standard deviation 0.75. The risk seeking investor will prefer such type of investment, whereas the more risk standard deviation or more risks, he will prefer such type of investment. So these are the risk seeking investors. Finally, we have seen three types of investor. One is risk averse investors. Most of the people in this world are risk averse investor. After that, we have learned risk neutral investor, who is only sees the expected rate of return. Firstly, we have learned the risk averse investor, who is always trying avoid to taking risks. He is the risk averse investor. So he generally invest in such type of project where has the less risky. If it is more risky, he wants more return. On the other hand, risk neutral, he only sees its return, not the risk, expected rate of return. He is not phalanx regarding to the risk. On the other hand, lastly, we have seen risk seeking investors, who shows he only prefers the taking risks regarding the expected rate of return. So we can see in a graph by these two type of investor. Here has the return. So this is if the risk increases, this is the increasing point. So risk seeking investor, they are increases their risks, not they are not preferring their return. In this is the return side. On the other hand, risk averse investor, if the risk increases, then their demand also increases, that is the demand size. And this is the risk neutral investor. This is the risk averse. This portion is risk seeking investor, and this is the risk neutral investor. Risk neutral investor is the middle line. So you can understand this very well. This is the risk portion. This is the risk portion. If the risk increases, then risk averse investors demand also increases, but risk seeking investors demand is not increases. He or she only prefers regarding to the risks. So these are the risk preference of investor we have discussed in here very well with a graphical representation. This all about today. Stay home, stay safe, try to maintain a safe social distance, try to wash your hands frequently in a day. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaika. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.